this episode, we build a beginner-friendly way to evaluate an AI solution the way an auditor would, which means looking at opportunity, impact, and business risk together instead of treating them as separate conversations. New learners often assume that evaluating an AI solution is mostly about whether the technology is impressive, but that is not how auditors think. Auditors evaluate whether the solution makes sense for the organization's goals, whether it creates risks that are understood and controlled, and whether the organization can prove it is using the system responsibly. Opportunity is the value the organization hopes to gain. Impact is what changes in the real world when the system is used, and risk is what could go wrong and how serious it would be. Trade-offs appear because improving one dimension can worsen another, such as improving speed while reducing accuracy, or improving automation while reducing explainability. Task 1 focuses on evaluating AI solutions early, often when stakeholders are excited and details are still forming, which is exactly when clear, calm evaluation is most valuable. By the end, you should be able to hear an AI pitch and translate it into a structured audit evaluation that respects both business goals and responsible oversight. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyber.author.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. A good starting point is defining opportunity in plain language, because opportunity is often described with big promises that can hide vague thinking. Opportunity is the measurable benefit the organization expects, such as reducing processing time, improving decision quality, increasing detection rates, lowering costs, or enabling a new service. Auditors care about opportunity because opportunity is the reason the project exists, and if the opportunity is not clear, the organization cannot judge success honestly. A vague opportunity statement like improve outcomes is not auditable, while a more concrete statement like reduce average support backlog by a defined amount creates a clear target. Opportunity also includes feasibility, because an opportunity is not real if the organization lacks the data, controls, or operational maturity to deliver it. For beginners, it helps to remember that opportunity is not the same as capability. A vendor may show a demo that proves capability in a controlled setting, but opportunity is the value realized in the organization's messy reality. An audit-focused evaluation therefore asks what business process is affected, what baseline exists today, and how improvement will be measured and sustained. If those are unclear, the pitch may be excitement without a plan. Now define impact, because impact is where AI moves from a project to a real change in how work happens and how people are treated. Impact is the effect the system has on operations, decisions, customers, employees, and stakeholders, and impact can be intended or unintended. An AI solution that routes support tickets may reduce wait time, but it may also change workload distribution across teams and create frustration if misroutes increase. An AI solution that screens applicants may increase efficiency, but it may also create fairness concerns and reputational risk if outcomes are uneven. Auditors care because impact determines what level of control and oversight is appropriate. Low-impact use cases can tolerate more experimentation, while high-impact use cases require stronger evidence, stricter governance, and clearer human review. Impact also includes dependency impact, meaning what upstream systems must provide and what downstream systems rely on, because an AI solution can change data flows and create new points of failure. For beginners, impact becomes easier when you ask a simple question: who or what will experience change because the system's output is used? That question pulls impact out of abstraction and into concrete consequences. Risk then ties opportunity and impact together, because risk is the possibility that the system's changes produce harm or fail to deliver value. In audit language, risk combines likelihood and severity is shaped by impact. If the system is used in a high-stakes context, the severity of mistakes is higher, which raises the risk even if the system seems accurate most of the time. Risk also includes governance risk, meaning the organization may not be able to demonstrate responsible control even if the system performs well. For example, a model might work, But if data permissions are unclear or monitoring is weak, the organization cannot prove the system is used appropriately. Auditors care because business risk is not only about technical failure. It is about compliance exposure, privacy harm, fairness issues, operational disruption, and reputational damage. Risk evaluation also includes the risk of doing nothing, because sometimes the current process is already risky or inefficient, and AI could reduce that risk. A balanced evaluation, therefore, compares the risk of adopting the solution to the risk of maintaining the status quo. This comparison is where trade-offs start to become visible in a structured way. To evaluate trade-offs, it helps to understand that every AI solution has at least three kinds of trade-offs: performance trade-offs, control trade-offs, and organizational trade-offs. Performance trade-offs involve accuracy, speed, cost, and robustness, because improving one often impacts another. Control trade-offs involve automation versus human review, transparency versus complexity, and flexibility versus consistency. Organizational trade-offs involve workload shifts, training needs, process changes, and the potential for new dependencies on vendors or specialized teams. Auditors evaluate these trade-offs because trade-offs determine whether the solution aligns with the organization's risk appetite and governance capability. A solution that automates a decision may create opportunity, but it may also require stronger controls and create higher risk if oversight is weak. A solution that is highly complex may deliver strong performance, but it may reduce explainability and increase operational fragility. When you see these trade-offs clearly, you can evaluate whether the organization has made deliberate choices or is drifting into risk. Task 1 expects you to recognize that an AI solution is not simply good or bad. It is a set of choices that must be justified with evidence and governance. A practical audit approach is to evaluate an AI solution using a narrative sequence that stays consistent across scenarios. First, clarify the use case and business goal in concrete terms, because everything else depends on scope and intent. Second, identify what decision or process changes, because that reveals impact and who is affected. Third, identify what could go wrong at a high level, including errors, drift, misuse, privacy exposure, and fairness concerns. Fourth, check what controls and oversight are proposed, including requirements, monitoring, human review, escalation, and accountability. Fifth, compare the expected opportunity to the expected risk, including whether the organization is capable of operating the controls it needs. This sequence helps beginners because it turns evaluation into a repeatable method rather than a vague judgment. It also helps on exams, because many answer choices differ in whether they focus on clarifying intent and risk early versus jumping to implementation details. Audit logic usually favors defining scope, requirements, and controls before relying on results. If you follow this sequence mentally, you will often choose answers that reflect responsible evaluation rather than enthusiasm or fear. Let's ground this with a scenario that illustrates opportunity, impact, and risk together. Imagine a company wants to use AI to automatically approve simple insurance claims to reduce processing time. The opportunity is clear: faster claim resolution and reduced staff workload. The impact is also clear: decisions that affect customers and money would happen faster, and mistakes could deny or overpay claims. The risks include false approvals, false denials, fraud exploitation, and unfair outcomes if the model performs unevenly across different customer groups. There is also a governance risk if customers cannot understand or challenge decisions, and an operational risk if model performance drifts as claim patterns change. The trade-off is that automation increases speed but can reduce human judgment and accountability unless carefully designed. An audit-focused evaluation would ask whether the organization has defined thresholds for automation, such as which claim types are eligible, what confidence level is required, and when human review is mandatory. It would also ask what monitoring and escalation exist, and who can pause automation if harm appears. This example shows that the evaluation is not about whether AI is possible. It is about whether the organization can do it responsibly. Another key part of Task 1 evaluation is recognizing opportunity traps, where the promised benefit is real but overstated or mismeasured. A common trap is measuring the model's technical performance while ignoring business outcomes, such as focusing on accuracy without proving the workflow is faster or safer. Another trap is assuming that cost savings appear immediately, even though training, monitoring, and governance costs can be significant. Another trap is assuming that a pilot's success generalizes to full deployment, even though pilots often have more careful oversight and cleaner data. Auditors look for these traps because they lead to projects that deliver less value than promised while still creating risk. A balanced evaluation asks how opportunity will be measured, what baseline is used, and what controls are budgeted and staffed. If the organization cannot fund monitoring or human review, the opportunity claim may rely on cutting corners, which increases risk. This is why opportunity and risk must be evaluated together, not in separate meetings. When the exam asks about evaluating solutions, it often rewards answers that require clear measurement plans and resource realism. Impact evaluation also includes second-order effects, which are effects that happen because people adapt to the system. For example, if a fraud detection model flags transactions, criminals may change behavior to avoid detection, which can reduce effectiveness over time. If a hiring screen system prioritizes certain traits, applicants may change how they present information, which can distort data and outcomes. If a customer support routing system changes, teams may adjust their work practices, which can change the data the model sees and create feedback loops. Auditors care because these adaptive behaviors can create drift and unexpected consequences. They also matter because they can change fairness and transparency, such as when people learn that certain behaviors trigger different treatment. An audit-focused evaluation asks whether monitoring considers these dynamic effects and whether governance includes periodic review of system impact. For beginners, it helps to remember that AI systems can shape the environment that feeds them, which means impact is not always one way. Recognizing second-order effects is a sign of mature evaluation, and it often leads to controls like ongoing review and clear escalation paths when patterns change. Another important angle is risk trade-offs across stakeholders, because opportunity for the organization can become harm for a subset of users if governance is weak. A system might improve overall efficiency, but create unfair delays for certain customers. A system might reduce costs, but reduce transparency and increase frustration when people cannot understand decisions. A system might improve detection, but increase false alarms that burden staff, leading to burnout and lower quality work. Auditors care because these stakeholder impacts can become compliance and reputational risks, and because responsible governance requires considering who bears the downside. This does not mean every system must avoid all negative impact, but it does mean impacts must be understood, mitigated, and monitored. Requirements and controls should reflect stakeholder considerations, such as ensuring appeal processes exist, ensuring human review is present where needed, and ensuring monitoring includes checks for uneven outcomes. On the exam, answers that consider stakeholder impact and oversight often align with audit logic, especially when the use case is high impact. This is part of evaluating a solution as appropriate, not just possible. The final piece is learning how to summarize a solution evaluation in audit language without becoming overly technical, because audits communicate to mixed audiences. A strong summary states the opportunity clearly, identifies the primary impacts and who is affected, and highlights the top risks and proposed controls. It also states what evidence would be needed to support a decision to proceed, such as documented requirements, validation results, monitoring plans, and governance ownership. It avoids vague claims like the model is good and instead uses verifiable statements like the organization defined thresholds, established monitoring, and assigned accountable ownership. For beginners, practicing this summary style is powerful because it trains you to think in the same structure the exam expects. When you can summarize in this way, you can also identify gaps quickly, such as missing monitoring or unclear accountability. Those gaps often become the best next step in an evaluation, such as requiring clearer requirements or stronger governance before deployment. Task 1 is less about choosing AI and more about choosing responsible conditions for AI. As we close, remember that evaluating AI solutions for opportunity, impact, and business risk trade-offs is a disciplined habit, not a gut feeling. Opportunity defines the value the organization expects. Impact describes what changes in the real world and who is affected, and risk describes what could go wrong and how serious it would be. Trade-offs appear because you cannot maximize everything at once, and responsible governance requires making those trade-offs explicit and controlled. An audit-focused evaluation asks for clarity, evidence, and accountability, because those are what make the solution auditable and safe. In the next episode, we will focus on asking the right questions when stakeholders pitch an AI solution, which is a practical extension of this evaluation method. For now, keep practicing the mental sequence of clarifying use case, identifying impact, naming risks, checking controls, and comparing opportunity to risk with honest awareness of organizational capability. When you can do that smoothly, you are thinking like an AI auditor rather than reacting like a consumer of hype.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.